Welcome to another episode of Touring the AFC South. I am your host, Mike Patton, and on this episode, we will be talking about the offensive lines in the AFC South. Of course, if you're not familiar with the teams in the AFC South, that is Tennessee Titans, the Indianapolis Colts, the Houston Texans, and the Jacksonville Jaguars. We're going to dive into what those lines are going to look like this year, rank them, and talk a little bit more in depth about them as well on this episode. But of course, before we get into that, we always do the Get Off Your Chest segment to start off each episode. And on this episode, we're going to keep it in the trenches. We're going to talk about New Orleans Saints offensive tackle Ryan Ramczyk. Well, if you have not heard the news, it was reported yesterday that he will be out for the season for the New Orleans Saints. That is not great news if you're a New Orleans Saints fan to hear before the season even starts. Now, he's been dealing with a knee injury and, of course, asking during, the ramp up to the season, the OTAs, things like that. Head coach Dennis Allen talked about, hey, he's working his way back. He's doing different things, having a little knee issue. He had, I believe, an operation or a procedure to kind of, I guess, alleviate some of the knee issues. However, apparently it has not worked, and he's going to be out for this year. The Saints were depending on him to potentially be the guy. Of course, they do have contingency plans with other offensive linemen. However, it just, it definitely has to sting to have Ramczyk out again for the entire season. Like I said, the knee injury did not, repair, or he did not bounce back like they thought he would. And, he's 30 years old at this point. So this could potentially be the end for him. Now, of course, there's another offensive lineman that's going through a lot of the issues or leg issues. That's David Bakhtiari, who is was an offensive tackle for the Green Bay Packers. He's without a team. He's still looking for a team. So you never know what can happen or what's going to happen when it comes to Ryan Ramczyk, but it kind of seems like he's headed down the same path as David Bakhtiari did with the Green Bay Packers. It's sad to see that he doesn't necessarily get to, I guess, control his narrative and go out the way he would want to go out. However, nothing is ever promised in the NFL. The NFL, for a lot of people, stands for not for long. And injuries can derail your career trajectory, the money you make, things like that. Hasn't derailed a lot of money that Ryan Ramczyk has made. He's going to make that money. However, it will curtail the way he's able to end his career and the way he's able to even maybe walk as well after his football career. Hate to hear that, but unfortunately, injuries are a part of the game. All right, that is the Get Off Your Chest segment. I wanted to kind of keep that part of it in the offensive line, the trenches as well, as they say. And speaking of the trenches, of course, this episode is about the trenches in the AFC South. That is where games will be either won or lost. Is how you can protect your quarterback. We're talking about, yes, the offensive side of the trenches. That be the offensive line. And the first team I want to talk about in that offensive line is the Houston Texans. That is a team that finished first in the division last season. No one really expected that. I would say, not a lot of people expected that. I'll put it that way. But, they did. They finished, number one in the division, won a playoff game. And a lot of that is due to the offensive line. Now, they definitely invested in their offensive line, made some trades. a few different things they did. Of course, a new scheme as well, and it paid off for them. Now I know that C.J. Stroud did have to do a little bit of running around. However, it is what it is, and they made it happen. But let's go into their offensive line. This is the projected starters for 2024. Not to say they will be, but this is the projected starters per ESPN.com. Left tackle Laramie Tunsil, left guard Kenyon Green, center Juice Scruggs, right guard Shaq Mason, and right tackle Titus Howard. Now, as far as Laramie Tunsil, of course, he's going to give you the false starts. He's going to be rocking back and forth. But he is one of the better linemen in this division. You could probably say in the NFL for some. But definitely is solid in run blocking, but he's even better in pass blocking. So, that's their rock as their guy they can depend on. They're like, okay, cool. He can get it done. We can leave him out there on the island. He can do his thing. So that's not one guy to worry about. One guy to worry about is Kenyon Green. Can he stay healthy? He has not been healthy during the entire time he has been with the Houston Texans. He's been with them for a couple of years now. That is not a good thing. Hopefully, he can stay healthy. If not, a guy I'm going to mention as a notable person will be stepping in. Because, of course, I will talk about some notable backups as well in the trenches. Juice Scruggs, he's going to be a solid center. He's still a young guy, but he'll be a solid guy that I believe that the Houston Texans believe in, and they're comfortable in starting him, even though he is not necessarily the most experienced. So I think that'll be okay in the trenches there. You have Shaq Mason, solid vet. He played for the New England Patriots, played for the Tampa Bay Bucks, and then was traded to the Houston Texans. So, he's done a solid job wherever he has been. So I definitely think he's going to continue to do that solid job as a guard in the NFL. And then the last person is Titus Howard. Now, he, like Kenyon Green, has had some issues staying healthy. Now, I will say he definitely has shown more than Kenyon Green has shown because he's been on the field more, obviously. However, they definitely need him to stay healthy this season. Last season wasn't necessarily the greatest season for him injury-wise. As far as key backups, they do have Kendrick Green. They traded for him from the Pittsburgh Steelers. If he is not, if Kenyon Green is not able to stay healthy, then Kendrick Green would be the one to step in there. He's a veteran, again, a veteran offensive lineman that they traded for last year from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Of course, you have Blake Fisher. He is the guy that, you mentioned, Notre Dame, and of course you don't think about Blake Fisher. Blake Fisher was the other tackle, not the big name tackle that the Chargers drafted, but he was the other tackle. He was very solid. He could be a very solid backup at the tackle spots. Say if something were to happen to Titus Howard, I believe he could step in and do a solid job. So, kind of position there. They're pretty solid. Definitely have good depth. Now, the biggest thing there is injuries, more specifically, with Titus Howard and Kenyon Green. Can those two guys stay healthy? Can they make things happen? Can they be dependable for the Houston Texans? That is going to be something to see. What else we're going to see is a commercial break, and then when we come back, we're going to get into the Titans offensive line and the Jaguars offensive line on tour in the AFC South with your host, Mike Patton.
EBO Beard Butter and EBO Beard Wash are two of the best beard grooming products for men worldwide. They help promote growth, keep your beard moisturized and soft, and enhance your overall upkeep of your facial hair. And with the new promo code MPAFC10, you can get 10% off of these products. Just go to www.etsy.com/shop/EBO Beard Butter. Again, that's www.etsy.com/shop/EBO Beard Butter. And again, the promo code MPAFC10. Again, MPAFC10, where you can get 10% off any products except for beard boxes. So treat your beard better today by going to get these the EBO beard butter and EBO beard wash.
Alrighty, and we are back on touring the AFC South. And like I mentioned before the commercial break, we will be talking about offensive line. And the next offensive line up is the Tennessee Titans. Now, last year wasn't kind to them as far as an offensive line. Last year, offensive line was not that great, and the quarterbacks were under siege. Will Levis and Ryan Tannehill, both definitely dealing with injuries or having things happen that put them in uncomfortable situations. Hence, a few things happening that throwing the ball in there that they probably might not have liked. So, those different things happen. But we're going to talk about what the offensive line is going to look like going into this year. Or again, this is projected starters for ESPN. I will throw in commentary of what I think as well. Okay, left tackle, J.C. Latham. Of course, a lot of skills, a lot of ability, still learning. Young guy, rookie, probably going to start the blocks, probably going to learn some lessons out there. Not saying necessarily he's going to be bad, but I do not think he's going to be in his final form in his first year. I think he'll be solid at least. Peter Skoronski, year 2, looks a lot bigger than what he looked like in his first year. Of course, he did have an appendectomy in his first year. That kind of, stunted a little bit of the growth and stunted him actually, looking as big as he usually would look. Of course, you're going to lose weight doing those different things, and you can't necessarily take time off to put on that size and things like that during the off season, during the season, I should say. So the off season has been kind to him in terms of putting on that weight and actually looking like the guy that the Titans believe he's going to be. At center, Lloyd Cushenberry, arguably the most important acquisition for the Tennessee Titans this offseason. Starting center replaces, can't remember the name right now. But anyway, definitely is a solid center. Definitely can do some things. And Titans are definitely paying him big-time coin to come in and do his thing and anchor and command that offensive line. Of course, they are pass first. They're going to be a pass first offense this year, which I've mentioned that a few times. And why not bring in the best pass blocking center you can think of as that was available on the market in Cushenberry? Okay, right guard, you got Daniel Brunskill. He may or may not be the starter. He's a veteran. Of course, he's been around. He was with the 49ers when Ray Carthon was out there as well. So it's another guy. And then Dylan also may or may not be the starter when it comes to next season as well. I'm going to get into that and why just in a second. Well, we're going to get to we have a comment. We'll in the Torn AFC South inbox says Colts have the best O-line, no doubt. We're going to get to the Colts. We ain't made it quite there just yet, but we're going to talk about them too. As far as the negatives, we're not going to get to the positive negatives yet. Let me get into the actual names of note, I should say, for the Tennessee Titans. I didn't really want to say backups because we're not sure if they're going to be backups. Nicholas Petit-Ferrer, he is in the competition for the right tackle spot with Dylan Radunz. To me, that is a competition I'm definitely interested in watching to see how it develops, to see who becomes that starting right tackle. If it's Dylan Radunz, hey, Bill Callahan knows what he's doing. So I'm not going to doubt what options he goes with. As far as the other options, Sadiq Charles, that was a guy that Bill Callahan wanted. He's worked with him in Washington, and now he brings him here to Nashville on a one-year deal. He could potentially be a guy there for Daniel Brunskill as well. So you could be looking at a totally different right side of the line than what is listed on ESPN.com. That is potentially what they're – if not, you'll have two backups that people Be like, okay, cool. They've shown they can do a few things when healthy and when on the field. So there you go. You got two backups there. The positives, new O line talent, definitely added in to kind of make things a little better or get, upgraded. It was bad last year. It was really, really bad last year for the Titans offensive line. This year, you're not sure. The negative, you're not sure what all to expect because you have a new offensive line coach and Bill Callahan, which that's a great addition in its own right. Then, of course, switching to a pass first offense this year. So you're not necessarily sure what to expect, but definitely a lot of optimism surrounding the Titans offensive line and the Titans team in general. They're, in terms of the area, in terms of here in the Nashville area, for what I've kind of paid attention to and listened to. And there's some selective optimism around this team as well. Now, the next team up is the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, the Jacksonville Jaguars, they didn't necessarily make a ton of splashes this offseason in terms of the offensive line. Let me just break down what they have. This is, again, projected starters, ESPN.com. Left tackle, Cam Robinson. Okay, got left guard, Ezra Cleveland. Center, Mitch Morse. You've got right guard, Brandon Sheriff, and you've got right tackle, Anton Harrison. Now, for Cam Robinson, can he stay healthy? He's had a few injuries, things like that in the last couple of years. Also, he had suspension. Also, sometimes it's hard to gather whether Jacksonville Jaguars fans believe in him. Now, the Jaguars paid him, and they showed there that, hey, they want him there and they believe in him in that aspect. But can he get it done consistently? That's going to be a big thing to watch. Now, Ezra Cleveland, that was a guy they picked up. I believe they traded for him. And ever since he got there, he landed at the left guard spot. He's definitely been a guy that has been solid for them. Their line actually was better with him in the lineup, and they decided to bring him back, which is a great thing for them to do. And, it gives them some continuity, one, and gives them a guy that they believe in as well. Center Mitch Morse. Now, he was the new addition this offseason on the offensive line. They bring him in from Buffalo. He's a vet guy, and he's an upgrade over what they did have. So, definitely hoping that he can come to command that offensive line, get them where they need to be, and, of course, make the calls and the signals to set up the protections and keep Trevor Lawrence more upright than they did last year, which, now I mentioned the Titans offensive line and their issues last year. The Jaguars had their offensive line issues as well. So this is a pivotal season for them up front as well. Of course, you have Brandon Sheriff. He's a vet. Of course, honestly, when they brought him there, he was talked about as being this great offensive lineman that they needed. He hasn't been consistently that guy. He's getting a little older. We don't know what's going to happen there. Hopefully for the Jaguars and their fans, he, with the addition of Mitch Morris, it makes him, come out a little bit better as well, hopefully, for them. Of course, right tackle, Anton Harrison, solid rookie campaign, and he's only going to get better with experience in game time, hopefully, for the Jaguars. So those are a couple guys there. I'm sorry, their offensive line. They're projected, of course, starting offensive line. Notable backups, Luke Fortner, starting center last year. He actually got replaced by Mitch Morse. And it's going to be interesting just to see if they're going to use him there as a backup, or they could use him as a guard backup potentially as well. But either way, he's a guy that has starting experience that you can pop in there and, maybe hold it down for a few games, things like that. Maybe he takes this demotion as a, lights a fire up under him. So we'll see what happens there with him. And, of course, you got Tyler Shatley. He's been around for a while in Jacksonville. Not necessarily, a guy you want to start, but hey, you're in a pinch, you can bring him in to do a few things, and he's an experienced backup. Offensive tackle Walker Little. That's another backup for the Jaguars. He has experience at both tackle spots. I mean, at one point they talked about moving him to guard. So, very versatile offensive lineman, can do a few things and can make some things happen for them. Overall, it'll be interesting just to watch how that offensive line does, along with the offensive line for the Titans, because both those offensive lines will be under the microscope this season compared to what they did last season. All right, we got one more offensive line to break down, and that is the Indianapolis Colts. But we're going to do that after a commercial break on Touring the AFC South with your host, Mike Patton.
A shift. A shift is something that happens and changes the dynamics. And that's what happened when Garrett Logistics was born. After 10 years as a sales pro in the logistics world of sporting goods, John Garrett decided to pivot to the world of freight and start a brokerage. So you're saying to yourself, why trust Garrett Logistics? Well, Garrett Logistics helps shippers improve overall workflow, along with increased on-time pickup and delivery percentages. Last-minute loads, multi-drop pickups, and more are part of the services with Garrett Logistics. They're available Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., and Saturday, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m., all times Central Standard Time. So give them a ring at 615-400-8484. That's 615-400-8484, or you can email them at john@garrettlogistics.co or visit their website at garrettlogistics.co. Garrett Logistics, where the motto is, it's not just freight to us, it's your business.
And we are back on Touring the AFC South. And the last offensive line we will talk about is the Indianapolis Colts. Now, I know going into last year, there were some questions there, wondering what was going to happen. And they actually were solid in terms of run and pass blocking. So, definitely something something to keep up with there. Of course, I didn't mention the positives and negatives for the Jaguars, and my apologies for that. But positives, they can certainly do some things better with the new addition, and then the continuity, I should say there. And then also, the flip side of that is you have the same guys from last year. So we'll see how that works for Jacksonville. As far as the Colts, let's get back into the Colts now. Colts, they bring back, this is their offensive line, again, projected ESPN.com. So, you never know. Changes could happen. But, do I see changes happening with the front five? No, but hey, they could. Left tackle, Bernard Raymond. You have left guard, Quentin Nelson. Center, Ryan Kelly. You've got right guard, Will Fries. And you've got right tackle, Braden Smith. Now let's start with Raymond. Bernard Raymond grew in year 2. They expect that growth to continue to go to happen for him. Definitely took a step forward. We'll see what happens the next season. I expect him to continue to grow and get better. With the same system, of course, from last year, and then also the same kind of coaching pieces, things like that. And then the addition of, hopefully for the Colts, Anthony Richardson for the entire season. Quentin Nelson. He rounded back in the form of his 2022 seasons. Did well, and they're hoping that he continues to play at that solid level. Of course, he is a guy that's talked about as one of the best guards in football. So, if he plays at that level, then, he definitely elevates that Colts offensive line even more. Then you have center Ryan Kelly. This is a pivotal year for him as well. So, it's something to watch, just how Ryan Kelly performs. Of course, I believe his payday is coming down the line. It could happen there. It could happen somewhere else. We shall see. Pivotal season for him. All right, as far as Will Fry, solid guard. Not a big guy, not a guy you really have to worry about a ton. So it's going to be interesting just to see how he continues to play, and if he continues to play solidly in the trenches. And of course, you got Braden Smith. Now, he's solid, but he also needs to stay healthy. That's a big thing for him, staying healthy. If he's able to stay healthy, then you're good there. Notable backups, you got Blake Freeland, the offense tackle backup there. And then also you got Trevor Bortolini, young guy, but physical. Can play either guard or center. Of course, I believe is their contingency plan. Should Ryan Kelly not come back next year or get injured, he would be the guy that would step in. So it's just going to be interesting just to see. The continuity is there. You have guys that performed well last year, and like I mentioned, like they're very solid O line, can run and pass block, and that's good. The only thing I wonder about is injury happens. You do bring in young guys. I know Bartolini isn't the only young guy they drafted this year, but you know that is something to think about. If any injuries are to happen, like for example, Braden Smith, like I mentioned, staying healthy with him. Any injuries happen, questionable a little bit with the depth, just in my opinion. But hey, that's a strong front five they have up there. All right. So, of course, we've reached the end of the show, but I do have to rank the offensive lines. I'd be foolish if I said I didn't rank the Colts offensive line the most solid one. They have probably the least amount of questions. Now, I do not like the depth situation behind them. Their front five. However, their front five is probably more solid and have probably less questions than anybody's offensive line. Okay, next I'm going to go with the Texans. Of course, I know the injury concerns. I definitely understand that. But, of course, they were solidly keeping CJ Stroud upright last year. And I couldn't in good conscience put either one of the Jaguars or the Titans ahead of the Texans offensive line at this point. Now, this is just going into this year. This is not saying that their offensive line is going to be horrible. It's not saying anybody's offensive line is going to be horrible. This is just going off of what I know, what I've seen going into this season. The next offensive line, I'll go with the Jaguars. I'll say this. They definitely didn't protect Trevor Lawrence well. And they're coming back with the same offensive line, so maybe the continuity helps. Mine's adding in Mitch Morse, of course, but maybe the continuity, continuity does help them up front. Minus one guy, adding one guy, I should say, and then of course the offensive line I do rank fourth right now is the Tennessee Titans. Now it's not to say they're not going to be a great offensive line and develop over the season. However, there are a lot of questions, especially at right guard and right tackle. There's not a lot of subtle, pieces there. You do have a rookie as your left tackle as well. So there's a lot of different things, a lot of things that the questions that have to be answered. So for right now, they would be ranked the fourth offensive line for me. Again, I'm going to give you my rankings again. That'd be the Colts, the Texans, the Jaguars, and the Titans as of right now. Of course, that's not to say any of these offensive lines will be better or any of these offensive lines will be worse. That is why they play the 2024 NFL season. Okay, that has been the offensive line episode, kind of ranking the offensive line and going through the offensive lines as well. I'm your host, Mike Patton of Touring the AFC South. You can find me on the artist formerly known as Twitter at Mike Patton82. That's MikePatton 82 on Twitter. The artist formerly known as Twitter. Of course, you can find me also on Instagram and Threads at that's THA, not THE, _general_MP. And you can also find Touring the AFC South on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, you name it, we are there. And you can also find Touring the AFC South on YouTube at the Mike Patton Network. So if you can, whether you listen, whether you like to watch, go ahead and subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and click the bell so that way you don't miss any shows whenever they drop. Also, of course, with the listening platforms, rate the show, give a review. I'd greatly, greatly appreciate it. I thank you all for tuning in to this episode of Touring the AFC South. We're out. Peace.